Samoflange. I hurt myself on that one. I'm Matt.
Would you call that a botch? Did you just
I
botch the opening?
I did botch that one. It hurt.
You know what happens? You know where botch comes from, right?
No.
Wrestling.
Oh, really? The whole term?
Yeah. Well, maybe not the whole term, but, that's where I know it from. That's the only time Mikey, hey, welcome, it's Mikey again.
Mikey,
yeah.
you're alive.
I'm alive and I'm here. The only time I ever hear the word botch is in respect to wrestling.
Speaking of wrestling, this is a topic we had 2 months ago.
2 months ago.
I was watching WrestleMania at your house, and I want to say it was a great time, but your setup is unbelievable. You've got, if you want, there's watching TV, and then there is having an experience while consuming media. It's almost like the fine dining of media there. You have the most wonderful recliners.
Thank you.
You have not a big screen. You have a movie screen down with a projector, high definition. We're watching it, and they're like life-size wrestlers against the wall there, and it is crystal clear. The picture is.
You can see the sweat just
rolling
rolling off their back.
The bulge
of
their muscles.
Sweat.
The sweat, yes.
Of their muscles. The bulge and sweat of their muscles.
The one muscle.
You could hear the grunts full Dolby Atmos.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Man. It was really good. In fact, true story. I almost called you May the 3rd to ask what you were doing the next day because I wanted to see if I could do a movie marathon. But that was consuming your full Saturday.
You could have.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know, but I was like, well, that's kind of unfair. He's like, well, I kind of had other plans, Matt, than watching the original trilogy.
I don't have other plans, Matt.
Okay. Next time. Well, it doesn't have to be May the 4th. Screw it.
Yeah.
So we'll do this. We'll do that another time because that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, well, I even told you, so movie night here, right? And you're like, yeah, of course. But I was thinking, man, there are a lot of movies I would want to watch on your big screen.
I'll say this, it makes movies better.
It really does.
And it's not so much the HD, because it is 4K, it is a 120-inch screen, it's the sound. The sound is what really has shocked me and immersed me into this home theater world, because I am finding movies now, anything that's been, reconfigured for Dolby Atmos and 7.1, even 5.1s, you will just get sucked into a world. Just last night, I was sitting at home watching the first Terminator. Now, I love the first Terminator.
It is fantastic.
It is such a wonderful movie. If they had not made
Terminator 2, Terminator would have been the best.
Yeah.
By far, it's such a great film.
And they're so two different. They're two different movies.
They're two different movies.
But that first movie is
excellent.
so gritty and dark, and it's got a lot of horror elements. And it really is a monster movie. Like, he really is like a monster. But you'd be surprised at just how immersive it is with sound. You wouldn't think Terminator sound, but with every little laser, every gunshot, every breaking glass. But all I'll say about this, Matt, you can always come over, anytime you want to. We can always throw on some movies. But I'll just put a button in this by saying this. Anybody listening could have this. You could have this set up too. I have this set up, but I paid the ultimate price to get it. And I'll just leave it at
that. Anyway. Okay, Icarus. The thing is, with that setup though, I even thought about this. This is how much I thought about this, because I would like the movie experience. I want the popcorn, but it's got to have the butter syrup to go with it.
Should I get a popcorn machine? See, I don't like popcorn. That's the craziest thing.
We don't need to get a popcorn. We don't need to go to that extreme. But, I could bring some bag popcorn.
I have bag popcorn there.
Okay, but even the extra butter popcorn just doesn't get that movie butter.
No, you got to have the
drizzle movie.
The
drizzle movie butter.
Yeah, you need to put some in the bottom, put some popcorn in.
What if it was just concession food? Like, we can make the hot dogs.
Okay.
That's easy. You could also have nachos with the nacho cheese and the jalapenos on it.
Sure.
Because they have that.
Reese's Pieces.
You have the box candy.
Oh, yeah.
Box candies, there's no limit on that.
Ices.
You could have ices. Ices there too. You could have what is? You know what I just did the other day? I had one of those freezy cups. I was like, I have not used this since I've moved into the house. Put a little Coke in there, made my own little slushy. It's like good old times again.
Now, when you say Coke, do you mean Coca-Cola?
It actually was a Coca-Cola. Good call there. Yeah, because when we say Coke down south.
Or was it cocaine? That's what I'm...
I put cocaine in it too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just to sweeten it up a little bit. Well, you have to, right? How did you have your Coca-Cola slushies back in the homemade Coca-Cola slushies back in the day?
Hey, true story. I don't like Coke ices. Nor Dr. Pepper ices. I got to have the fruit.
To be honest, the cherry, the strawberry, whatever, the red flavor one is the one I always choose.
Wild cherry, blue raspberry.
I've had a Coke one before,
strawberry.
and I'm not opposed to it. But yeah, I like the blueberry, the raspberry, the sour apple when they sometimes have one.
Dang, that's old school.
Yeah, that's the old school one. And you know what else is old school that I know who has them on tap? Slush puppies.
Oh.
And a slush puppy I never liked as much as an icy.
No. Not as good.
But there's a time and a place for slush puppies. When I used to go to the baseball parks, to see Bray play or some of my other brothers, or he playing, you always wanted a slush puppy. That was like the nicest. They didn't have ices for some reason in the concession stands in Monroe here.
Well, icy was too good for a little
maybe so. Yeah, it was
concession stand.
But for some reason, like whatever you ordered at the concession stand, if it was a slush puppy, that was like the premium product for some reason in my mind. Even though I'd take an icy all day, but a slush puppy meant something. And when we walked into a convenience store, they had nothing but slush puppies. I went, that's weird. I've never, especially down south, you don't see that. And I was like, okay. So I said, girls, you want to get a slush puppy? And they just because you don't have them that much.
Right.
Now slush puppy is the best thing in the world to them.
Right.
Better. I mean, they'll still take an icy all day. But slush puppy, holy crow.
What's that other option? It's not slush puppy and it's not icy. What's that other like fake icy?
Oh, no. Those are the big freezies or whatever they're called.
Tasty freeze or something?
No, they're freezies at Circle K or something like that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They didn't want to buy the icy brand names. So they got the off-brand. It's an off-brand icy is all it is.
Garbage.
Yeah, it's garbage. I mean, it's cheap, but it's garbage. But it's like the Great Value brand of icy.
I mean, ices are already cheap.
Did you know they make Great Value candy bars?
Yes. I saw some at one of these huge convenience store Mecca Taj Mahal things we have.
Just started seeing them pop up.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell what's what, but I noticed they put it next to the real candy bar.
Oh, yeah.
So this nougat with caramel is actually called a Milky Way.
Yeah, same
This
thing.
nougat with caramel with peanuts is called a Snickers.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, what is this one? The cookie caramel? Oh, that's a Twix. And then, of course, it's right next to the Twix. But I tried the Snickers one, and yeah, you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes in life you get what you pay for. Candy bars,
and that was
electronics.
And when you pay 78 cents instead of the Great Value hooker is not as good as the real thing.
No,
it's not. The ones in the back alley of the Walmart are just
Nope. You gotta have the one with the white polar bear on it.
I mean, at Sam's Club you buy them in bulk.
Hey-o!
And I mean they're fat. Yay! All right. So anyway, we've got so off topic here.
What is the topic?
Oh yeah, and big dill pickles for the concession stand. I have some, so I can bring some. Anyway,
I love pickles.
I love pickles. I do. I really do. Do you know what it tastes like? Just like I'm sorry, we're getting off the top again. Texas made pickles. Have you tried these from Brookshire's? Texas made.
No.
They taste just like the concession stand big sour pickle that you were used to when pickles used to be pickles.
Right. Do they
not neutered pickles like we eat now?
Do they sell them in wrapped in little paper bags?
No, they come with a pair of genitals. So it's really weird.
Like you walk out of the store with a 40-ounce Old English in a paper bag and a pickle
it's really
in a bag.
Weird, yeah. No, they're like someone told me they're like what pickles used to be, and I went, what do you mean what pickles used to be? Pickles are because I get the Velasic or whatever, the stork on it. I thought that was, and then I bit into a Texas made. Oh, it is the classic old school sour.
What
pickle.
is life coming to? When even pickles.
I know, for real.
It's nothing sacred.
That stupid stork's been lying to me for years, thinking he was the best.
Vlasic.
And Texas Made comes in plastic jar. That's why I thought it was cheap. It looks like a cheap little 50s character on it too.
Well, sometimes cheaper is better.
It's not cheap. It's the same price, maybe a little bit more. But you know what? It's classic. It's Texas Made, baby. The stars at night shine big and bright.
Deep in the heart
of Texas. Hey, folks, this episode is sponsored by Stepdaddy. Go get you one today.
Whoopsh.
Ours is in Florida. All right, so top 5 WrestleManias. This is the idea we came up with while watching WrestleMania. And I wanted to ask you, what were the top 5? Now, you can't say what were the best matches, because sometimes you have a so-so WrestleMania that had a really good match, but it had a bunch of forgettable stuff. Mm-hmm. So this is from top to bottom. Which one was just like... Because this year's was pretty good.
It was really good.
And there was one stinker.
Oh, yeah.
Once to the brother v brother thing. Everyone says that.
Right.
I mean, it was just a dud. And we knew that while we were watching. I was like, man, this is boring. This is sad that it's so boring. So what are like that? Because there are terrible matches at WrestleMania. There have been terrible cards at WrestleMania. And we're not talking way back in the day. We're talking, up to current WrestleMania to mid, the early 90s when no one was watching. But what were the best cards in WrestleMania number 5?
So wait, do you not have a list?
I didn't watch all the WrestleMania.
Okay,
so I don't have a say in this, but I would love to comment on each one of yours.
Sure. So once again, this is very subjective as usual, and wrestling is very divisive. So there'll be a lot of people that probably disagree, but if you do, then comment and let us know what you like. Now, my number 5 is now these are all going to be personal to me.
That's fine. That's totally.
And I will let you know why. But number 5 is WrestleMania 30.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I do think that if you look at lists, then WrestleMania 30 is usually in like the top 10, top 12 out of the 40.
Yeah.
So I think kind of across the board, people do like it. But for me, there's a couple of reasons. Number 1, it was in New Orleans, and I was there. So that was my first WrestleMania. It was in the Superdome. Number 2, this was 2014, so this was the year of Daniel Bryan. So it was really cool to see Daniel Bryan win the Yes Movement.
And you were there for this too.
And I was there for that.
Which, to be honest, that's fair to add that in there, because that being in there in person really heightens the experience.
It does. But even so, that was still good storytelling. The WWE universe, if you will, was behind Daniel Bryan.
What they wanted.
Gave the fans what they wanted, and it was really nice. You got to see Bryan wrestle a couple of times that night, and I want to say who else wrestled. Was it either Orton or Triple H wrestled twice that night. So the main event was the Triple Threat, and it was a good main event. There were other high spots. That was the first year they did the Andre the Giant over-the-top Battle Royale, Memorial. Right. And it was a big deal that year, right? It was a big deal that year. It was a part of the card. It was right in the middle, and it was fun. Now, since then, it's been relegated to, they put it on SmackDown or something even before.
It doesn't mean as much.
It doesn't mean as much. But that year, big trophy. It was really nice. But. And I think you know the but. This WrestleMania will go down in history because it was whenever Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker and ended the streak. And when you were in that building, I mean, Superdome, 80,000 plus people, you could hear a pin drop. And I cannot explain it. I've never been one of those people that's like, you had to have been there, because I think that's
loud
pretentious.
And raucous,
right?
Deadly quiet.
But you can't understand it unless you were there, because it was the oddest thing, because all of us thought it was a mistake. I am a Brock Lesnar fan. I have gotten picked on a lot over the years because of that. I was a fan of his in 2014. I did not think that he was going to win that match. Nobody thought that he was going to win that match. And at the time, I was hell bent on thinking he didn't have any business. Now, since then, it's been a decade, and it's not my fan for him.
You're not the only fan that thought that.
No. But it's listening to the Undertaker, it's listening to Mark Calloway tell the story and tell how that came to be, and how he picked Brock Lesnar, and he signed off on it, and it was all part of the thing. So I respect it from that viewpoint, but I don't think it should have happened. I wish now, looking back at the Undertaker's legacy and the legacy of WrestleMania, that he just should have had a not a loss on his record.
So real quick before we move on,
sure,
who should have beat the Undertaker?
Nobody.
Oh,
yeah,
he goes off.
Yeah.
Into the sunset.
Yeah, I mean, he lost a lot of other matches at other pay-per-views or whatever, but at WrestleMania, how cool would it be, just to have him be something like, 30-0 or, or whatever. It just would be cool.
Okay.
I mean, what Roman ended up beating him. And that was just kind of like whatever. You didn't kind of care. You didn't really care at that point. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Number 4. Good pick.
So my number 4 is WrestleMania 10. Okay, Madison Square Garden, WrestleMania 10. It was a very good card from top to bottom, right? But this WrestleMania, to me, is in my top 5 for 2 main matches. Two 5-star matches, not just from me, but if you go and look up any website, any wrestling
what other people
book,
say. It's what you say.
They will say the exact same thing.
Okay.
Number 1 was, and I actually think this is the better of the 2 matches, but I'm putting it number 2 in my heart. It is Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. It is one of the most technically sound, wonderful matches you'll ever watch. It is WrestleMania 10, so it's 1994, so it is still an old school type of wrestling.
Right.
Which those two absolutely excelled at. I mean, when you think about just, 2 brothers growing up in Canada, and like at that time, like it was, WrestleMania was only 10 years in, wrestling still had not, hit the Attitude Era, and even though I liked it back in the superhero days, it had not reached the heights, the global heights. So to have 2 brothers like just have this match, just put on this clinic of, this is ring psychology, this is how you sell a story.
The right way for 2 brothers to have a match.
The right way. Yes, yes. Unlike those 2 idiots this year, they should have watched that over and over again. Actually, if they would have just taken that match out of the live feed and put this Bret Owen Hart in, Bret and Owen match in, oh my gosh. Beautiful.
Funny.
But the other match, like the highlight that's just near and dear to my heart, because my favorite wrestler of all time is Shawn Michaels.
This is going to be on there.
Is the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon ladder match.
You love that, and it's a universally beloved match,
right? And it's not even a crazy wild match. It was really kind of this first look. I know it probably wasn't even the first ladder match in general, but on the big stage, and Shawn Michaels didn't even win, right? Razor Ramon won, and Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler, but I love me some Razor Ramon. Like he was larger than life, him and Diesel at that time. And say what you will about Shawn Michaels, but the dude sells like nobody's business. And he sold so many of those, wonderful just falling off of the ladders. And whenever he did he didn't do a frog splash, but whenever he did the big sprawling splash off of it. And it's just these shots that are iconic. Sure, they've been beat 100 times since then, but at that time, you'd never seen it. It broke
new ground.
It broke new ground, yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts on 10?
No, but I was just saying, kind of like how the was it Table Ladders Chairs match from Christian Edge versus the Hardy Boys.
Right.
That kind of just said, oh wait, we can do better now. It's like, and that ladder match was like, now we're on another level. Right. Now everyone else has to step up their game.
Right.
Just like the Hell in a Cell matches kind of up the game for everything else. I mean, you continue to set that bar, and now it must be at a different level. And that was a bar setter there.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
So my number 3, I'm still going old school, is WrestleMania 6.
I love that you're going old school. Okay.
Now, WrestleMania 6 that was 1990, right?
Right.
So it had a card that was full of people that, if you watched wrestling at the time, which, this was even before Raw, so you had to really watch, like, the Saturday wrestlings or rent, like, the, random tapes from your video store or whatever. Then you would know these people, right? They were names then. Most of them are just, even when you look back on it now, just a bunch of wahoos. But there's a couple of really, really good matches, in my opinion. There's a Ted DiBiase versus Jake the Snake Roberts match for the $1 Million Championship. And I think that Ted DiBiase and Jake the Snake, neither one of them ever won the world title. They were always considered like mid-carders, but you wouldn't know it watching it at the time because they're 2 of the best characters that I've ever seen, 2 of the best workers that I ever have seen in the ring. And to have them have a program together, it was a really, really, really good match.
I believe JR said his top 5 of villains of all time would have been Ted DiBiase.
Sure, like that dude.
Easily.
Yeah, like how could you not? He was never a face. You always hated him.
Yeah,
and it was easy, cheap heat.
But he said he could work the crowd like no one else he's ever seen.
Yeah, and that laugh. I mean, just the
smug.
It was just perfect,
and it felt pure and it felt natural.
It did feel real. Like it never felt like an act.
It never felt like an act.
Right.
And that's the thing, when you're acting that smug and that rich,
it could come across.
You can really go into the cheesy, area. But he never let it go that far. But yet just laid it on thick, that mockery.
Right.
That every single one of you were beneath him.
Right.
And he knew it, and
that was a cheesy time for wrestling, but you're right. Like, he took it to that line, but even didn't go over into the cheese. He
never crossed it.
You know, that smugness, like something like Rick the Model Martel, right? Whenever he would come out and he had his little bow tie on and the little fragrance thing, that was smug, but that was over the top cheesy smug, right?
Yeah.
But Ted DiBiase never did that.
No.
Like, he took it. You just believed him. There were other good matches, but for sake of time, I'm just going to go to the big one and why this one is so important to me. This one was Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior, and it was champion versus champion. And they had never done that at that time.
Yeah,
for the main event to be champion versus champion, but also for it to be two faces, right? Like, they had Hogan. Hogan had been, Hogan was WWF at the time. He was the main wrestler. But the Ultimate Warrior started coming up in 87, 88, and, he'd won the Intercontinental title, and he was heat. I mean, like, he was as hot as anybody could be. Little kids loved him. He was this larger-than-life superhero, this action figure, and so whenever they put the belt on him, they were like, okay, we need to, make him the face, and Hogan, went along with it, and it was just a good build-up because it wasn't really, like, right before that, bless you, right before that, they had this wonderful, like a much better program, really, with Hogan and Macho Man, where Hogan thought that, where Macho Man got jealous with Miss Elizabeth, thought that Hogan was trying to steal Miss Elizabeth. You go back and watch that stuff even now, and Macho Man was so batshit crazy that you thought that this was real. Like, you
believed it.
And I think that a lot of it was real coming from the sense of he was a jealous person. Like, all accounts have always said that he was a very jealous person and very protective and overprotective of Elizabeth. So that was a much better storyline, but just the magnitude of Hogan versus Warrior, and the match isn't good. I mean, it's two of the stiffest workers ever, but when you look at it from a spectacle point of view, like, it's one of the few,
they put on a show.
They put on a show, and the entire crowd, it was in Canada, I think Ontario maybe, and it was, oh my gosh. It just, and then when he won, it had a lot of false finishes, because people really didn't know who was going to win. You didn't. There was no internet. I mean, how could Hogan lose? But how could Warrior lose?
How could the Warrior lose? Like, you really didn't know who was going to...
No. So when you look at it now, it's not necessarily the best working match. Actually, I can't even say that with a straight face. Like, it's just not a good working match at all.
It's two icons going into the ring, and you're just wondering, how is this going to end?
Yeah, but when you put it all together, when you put the whole show together, the whole spectacle together, the emotion behind it and what it meant and everything, it's hard to deny. Okay.
All right, where are we?
Oh, number two.
Two. Okay, number two.
Now, my number two is, if there were no emotions involved, this would be number one.
Okay.
This would be number one with the bullet. Right?
Fair.
And I think on so many lists, this is the prohibitive number one, and that's WrestleMania 17. All right, 2001.
Okay.
It's in Houston, Texas, and this was the second of the third main events between The Rock and Stone Cold. This match this 17 from top to bottom was just bangers, right? You had who was it? Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit, and that type of match. That's the one with the tables, ladders, and chairs with Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys and
okay.
And the Dudleys.
Yes, I know exactly because I watched that one.
Yeah, that's the one that's got the spear, the iconic spear.
Table,
No, the one where he's on the ladder.
On the ladders.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, when Edge spears him, it's got the gimmick battle royal in it, which takes all of the if you remember I don't remember how many there were, 20 people or whatever, that takes all the old gimmicks from a decade before, Iron Sheik and Big Boss Man and all these people, and they put them in this silly little gimmick.
I remember that.
So what's cool about that, when you see it in that capacity and in that framework, it's like, this is what you loved about wrestling 10 years ago, were all these silly gimmicks. But now, how far we have come with this grittiness, this realness, this attitude era, and just how much the gimmicks stuck out, and just how much they were a joke. You know what I mean? And because it's not a good match, it's really silly. It had the gobbledygooker and One Man Gang and other people. But whenever you look at it, it's like, no, I don't want to watch this anymore. Like, give me The Rock, give me Stone Cold, give me this. And then you had The Rock and Stone Cold, and that match is one of the best matches. It has the number one best promo ever. That's the Limp Bizkit, My Way,
Yeah,
My Way,
yeah.
or the Highway
I
program.
remember that. I remember that. You'd watch it,
oh,
the
God.
whole 5 minute whatever
Yes.
song was played while you had the whole.
Didn't we watch
drama.
it? Didn't we watch it
Drama.
at WrestleMania? Didn't I throw it on for y'all? Because I'll watch that to this
The
day.
whole drama.
Yeah, them slapping the beers out of each other's hands, and it's just
and
it's
they timed the
magnificent.
music with the action scenes they had.
Magnificent. So I wish for the life of me I could remember some of those smaller matches, but it was just
But just top to bottom,
prime
just
attitude
stuff.
era, and it was kind of right there at the end of the attitude era because that was like April of 2001. And the next WrestleMania, which was WrestleMania 18, was the one after they had bought WCW, and that's the one that had the NWO in it, and that's the one that actually had a fantastic. This would be an honorable mention for me because it had the Rock versus Hogan match, which is very similar to the Hogan versus Warrior match, where like that crowd, that's the most hyped crowd I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, they were going bonkers.
Right, and that's the one where they
Back then.
changed everything on the fly in the ring, and then they had a really good, what was it, Stone Cold versus, what was it, Razor Ramon match that has the best ref slide ever. Do you know that gif where it's like the ref comes running and he slides in the ring,
in and
then Nash like elbows him? It's the best thing. So that's 18. But yeah, 17 from top to bottom is just a wonderful show. If you like wrestling, particularly at the peak of its popularity, that's one that you do not want to miss.
There you go. Classic.
Now, when we're talking about classic, though,
What's the number one?
number one, and I think you would know. Can you guess it?
No,
Really?
I can't.
Now, before I say this, I'm absolutely going to say once again, it is not, objectively better than 17, but it's just wrestling personified, and that's WrestleMania 3.
Oh, okay.
That is Hogan versus Andre and the Big Slam.
Big Slam heard around the world.
Right, and for the longest time, maybe even still to this day, I can't quite remember, but it was
Record-drawing
the record-drawing crowd at the Pontiac Silverdome and all that jazz. So many iconic things from that. It has one of the best matches I've ever seen, which is the, if I'm not mistaken, what is it, the... Macho Man and was it Ricky the Dragon Steamboat match? Which is just insane for that time because this is 1987. Still to this day, I absolutely love the little wrestling ring carts that took them to the ring. It's just so iconic. They did that again in WrestleMania 6. But they were smaller. But in that one, it was so long to get to the ring, and you see them leaving and coming back. And if you go back and you look at that card, like. So we watched WrestleMania this year.
It's an all-star card.
It was over.
Three.
It was over two nights, right? This year.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was about 4 hours each night, 3.5, 4 hours each night.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many matches were there?
Oh gosh, I can't recall.
It wasn't a lot, right? Like it was.
No, there was.
It seems like 6-ish a night.
I was gonna say
something.
6 a night.
Something like that. So I'm going to just look this up real quick. WrestleMania 3.
How many matches did it have?
It had so many matches, it was ridiculous. 12 matches. Now, when you think about this, though, right? This isn't over 2 nights. This is and this isn't whenever these pay-per-views were 8 hours long. This was 12 matches in 4 hours.
Packed them in like sardines.
They did. The card was this. I mean, and we're talking classic. Hold on, I'm scrolling. I should be more prepared, but I'm not. It'd be enough time for you to
hold on, I can
boost
look it
our
up.
boost
I
our
can look it up.
sponsor. Okay, we had the Can-Am Connection, which was the model Martel and Tom Zink. Defeated Bob Orton in the magnificent Morocco. I remember that. Billy Jack Haynes and Hercules. I remember this match. It was a Hillbilly Jim, the Haiti Kid, and Little Beaver, which were the two little midget wrestlers. They defeated King Kong Bundy, Little Tokyo, and Lord Littlebrook. Harley Race with Bobby Heenan defeated the Junkyard Dog. Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus the Barber Beefcake with Dino Bravo in their corner defeated the Rougeau brothers. Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis. Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation versus Tito Santana and the British Bulldogs. Butch Reed defeated Coco Beware. Ricky Steamboat with George the Animal Steel defeated Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth. The Honky Tonk Man versus Jake Roberts. the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov versus the Killer Bees, and then Hogan versus the Giant. So this was just, they had one, which kind of changed everything. Then they had two, which was kind of a bomb because the matches weren't good, and they tried this whole thing where they were in 2 different locations, 3 different locations, and they had matches in different cities. And then 3 just put it all together, and it was just like, okay, yeah, this is what really kind of catapulted wrestling into superstardom.
Stratosphere.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good list. I think a lot of people would agree with WrestleMania 3.
I would love to hear what everybody else says, because a lot of my stuff is older, and there are a lot of newer things.
And people watch at different times, and people love different eras better than others.
Yeah.
So, folks, let us know in the comments below, what are your top 5 WrestleManias? And we'll see you next time on
Saturday
Morning
Samoflange,
brother.
Oh yeah.